With a growing dependence on digital media, it's almost impossible to imagine a day without them, whether that be learning new skills from YouTube or surfing for hours through Pinterest and Instagram. With this growing dependence, there's a rise in its importance and it has become a rather valuable skill for the generations to come. To get a better insight on the same, we have with us Mr. Aaron Noronha, who has been in the digital media industry for over 12 years and has worked with brands we might know as Lenovo, Kingfisher Beverages, and lifestyle stores. In his current role at Mindshare, he helps India's largest advertiser, Hindustan Unilever, on reaching customers through digital viewpoints. We're glad on having you here, sir.
Good
Thanks for having me.
afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. Myself and my team have formulated a few questions that we'd like to get your valuable insight on. Just to get you comfortable with the people on the screen, my name's Aditi, and Akriti and myself will be asking the questions. And Dhwani is the one who introduced us into this session.
Hey guys.
So I'll take the first question. So just so that we ease into the discussion on the topic, could you tell us a little bit about what digital media is and its importance or how we come across it in like our day-to-day lives?
Sure. So I think this should be fairly simple in the sense that for older generations, it's definitely there's a distinction between what would be an analog world where you look at, say, a TV or a print or radio. And for people like myself, and especially for you guys who've grown up, it's more of a seamless world, right? So I think what you guys mentioned today, it's pretty much digital, something that you have 24/7, right? The first thing you do probably before you even wake up, like right after you wake up, and you brush your teeth, is you check your phone, check WhatsApp. You might get a YouTube video, you might put it on to hear a song. For professionals, you might have the really bad habit of checking your email as the first thing that you do. So I think especially given the mobile device, digital is something that we have with us throughout. It's not just been a way of connecting people and being entertained, but now it's becoming a business channel, right? And it's something I think we'll touch upon in the session is in terms of how a business is looking at it, because it's no longer this kind of innovation where a few people had the internet, like say 20 years ago, but it's something where more and more the guy who's driving the auto rickshaw is plugged in and watching something as much as you are, right? So it's fairly seamless, and it's really strange about how connected we are. And sometimes that can be kind of overwhelming as well, because you're always constantly being engaged. Either people are pinging you or you have stuff to watch. And now there are like people trying to figure out how to cut down their usage on their phone or with the internet. But yeah, it's really ubiquitous that way.
Thank you, sir. I think I'm definitely guilty for the waking up and going straight to my phone for sure.
Yeah.
We move on to the next question.
So now that we've eased a bit into the topic, so we can get to the technical part of it. We know that a strong digital strategy is required by every organization as such. So how do you think a strong digital strategy can be obtained, and how does it impact an organization positively?
Right. So I think, for a couple of years, so maybe 15 years ago, you just had a few million people online. Like maybe it was a big thing when there were 50 million Indians online back in 2005. Today we're at about almost 600 million, right, of the population. So I don't think you can run away from digital, but definitely what strategy you're employing is going to be basis the category you're in. So if you're already into something like say mobile phones and now even apparel, digital is going to be a large part of how you reach consumers and even sell to them. So if you think about any device or any kind of purchase which has a lot of research involved, say you're looking to buy a car, you're looking to buy a house, you're looking to buy a phone or a TV, you're probably going to ask friends, family for the information, but you're also going to start researching online. You're going to check out maybe YouTube reviews, you're going to go to the website, you're going to do a price comparison. You might ask for a callback. You might, if you're looking for a car or an insurance loan, you might say, yeah, this is my details, please call me back. So depending where digital plays a role, really, in your category or your business, you're going to have a very strong strategy for it. Giving you the opposite is someone like a local kirana store who was just selling to the neighborhood. He didn't really have to be online, right? He had his consumers there. But if you saw, they're the latest guys to kind of get accelerated into digital because they were really one of the saviors who were operating through COVID, right? While everything was in lockdown, kirana stores were still selling. And one of the big announcements that came is that now JioMart has,
Yeah.
and their goal is to say that, look, the kirana store will still sell to the people around them, but I will give them a platform to reach even more consumers online. And then they made that whole partnership with WhatsApp saying, hey, people are already texting. Can I also get them to text the kirana store, because that cuts down their need to go to the store? And with COVID, people are like, yeah, I as much as possible, if I can do stuff from the house, it's safer and more convenient for me. So really now I think everything's getting disrupted. Change is always inevitable, but COVID just kind of pushed that and accelerated that further.
So just that, sorry,
Yeah.
like, Facebook took about almost 10% of, the sharehold with Reliance. So was that a digital strategy or more of like partnership and, more of your shares with a different enterprise?
That's purely a strategic call, but that's a strategic call actually from an enterprise level, because both what Jio and WhatsApp, or rather the parent company Facebook, are trying to do is beyond a point. If we really need to grow, we need to start looking at partnerships, and that's when those guys start looking at it strategically, saying, can we cross share each other's user bases, and secondly, is there anything that you're bringing unique to the table? So if WhatsApp is a great messenger, how can I layer it with JioMart so you can also order from that platform, and vice versa? And JioMart for them is like, okay, I have access to kirana stores. How do I get a ready base of customers to buy from me? Okay, if I can plug into WhatsApp, then those people already become my customer, potential customer rather. Yeah, so that's a strategic call.
So do you people they go to websites and see the stores, or do you think they check it out on Instagram or other Facebook or anything like that? Like, what is more used? People going on websites or people using social media platforms for checking out brands?
So it's a bunch of things. Again, it depends on what you're doing, right? So like I said, if you're looking at buying a scooter or a car, there's only so much information you can get by going to the social page of that company. You're like, okay, I need to know specs. I need to know if there's a EMI option. I need to know if there's a dealer that I can go to nearby. Then you're going to be going to the company website. So then the site of the company becomes really important. Then reviews about that product become really important. But say, for instance, and you would have seen this, I've seen this a lot in the lockdown. There are a lot of food companies that have popped up on Instagram, right? They're selling you anything from milk home delivery to like gourmet dishes. For them, they know that people are spending a lot of time on social, especially with lockdown. So it makes more sense to focus on reaching them there. And if you think about it, Instagram is a great place to kind of show off pictures of food. So if I'm a food company, then my first place is like, let me get my product in front of people there. And as an impulse, I have a better chance of getting them to convert and buy from me than, say, if I just put a website and wait for people to search for me. So it's a mix of both. Again, it depends on the category. If it's an impulse category, you can get a lot like apparel, food and stuff. You can like really get a lot of people to check you out quickly and buy on, say, social or YouTube. But if you're a product that has a lot of involvement, then maybe you might think about 1 month for buying an AC. Then you might want to think about more touch points and, where all is the person researching and where all do I want to then engage with that person and ensure that they think of me as the product.
Thank you so much for answering that, sir. I'm pretty sure that's helped a lot of people, considering we do fall into those traps. And I'm pretty sure it's helped all of our entrepreneurship students that we have with us. So
Right.
moving on to the next question.
So this is kind of more of my personal favorite too, because I really wanted to know the answer to this. But as we entered into lockdown, most of us were like forced to shift to e-newspapers. And as we were forced to shift to e-newspapers, for a lot of us, we weren't comfortable with that. They were stopped to be supplied to our houses. And
I missed that. I saw my net got stuck in green. Yeah, sorry. What was that again?
Yeah. So I was saying that, as lockdown started, we had to shift to e-newspapers because, newspapers stopped to be supplied. And,
Right.
so now do you think, even though now we've started getting newspapers back in its physical print journalism form, but do you think that in the future there could be like a permanent shift to, e-newspapers or e-books?
So I think difficult to say. Like if you look at the West for kind of an example, there's been a steady decline in your what you call linear television and say print media and stuff like that. It's all gone digital, but India is still one of those countries which is kind of unique because digital is growing, but it's not growing at the expense of TV or print. Like it's more like I will read the paper, but I will also consume online, and I will watch television, but I'll also use Netflix maybe on the weekend. One of the big things that the reason for that is that if you look at popular media, we were very English centric. If you think about it, like the largest newspaper was Times of India, and if you think about how access internet, it was like all content you could see was in English. So it was very intimidating for someone who it wasn't their first language, second language. But because of the mobile phone and because it's spread so much and it's gone into smaller cities, everything that's been consumed now is in vernacular. And similarly, we're one of the few countries where print media is still growing because while Times of India might not be adding new people, there are a lot of people now who are saying, okay, if I can get the news in Marathi or Bengali, whatever, I will subscribe to the newspaper. So there's a lot of vernacular news that's come up. And it's not just an online phenomena, it's also reflected in the newspapers that are opening up. If you think about it, even from television, there are so many hundreds of televisions because it's like within states, there are also multiple dialects and things like that. So there's a lot of content that's being made now saying we know those audiences are there, we know they weren't getting it before, so we see a gap and we want. So I think we're still a way off from saying that print or TV will die. India is going to be, I think, one of those unique countries where it will coexist. Unlike the West, where the digital replaced completely what was offline media, and those became very niche channels by themselves.
Alright, I personally hope that they don't chuck out physical books because I just don't like ebooks for some reason. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who still prefer holding a physical book. Like I've moved to ebooks and Kindles, but so as long as there are a lot of consumers, you're not going to have that happening. Like in the West, a lot of bookstores have closed, but I think we're way off from that happening in India as well. So yeah.
Okay, so we go to the next question.
So when we're talking about digital media and marketing, obviously we're going to talk about how to maintain good public relations. So what do you think are the components that are involved in maintaining good online public relations?
So that's a difficult question because honestly, I don't deal too much with the public relations part of it. I deal more with the paid media aspect, which is to say that you want to run an ad on YouTube, or you want to put up an ad on Facebook, or say a website. That's where I get involved. But what I can tell you with public relations is, and this is not something that doesn't just affect companies, it affects us as well. It's very easy to now break a reputation online, right? Like even from a personal aspect, all you need is just one picture or one story coming out about you, and suddenly people have this opinion about you. So if you think about it from that aspect, all you need is one story to come out about a company, and it goes haywire from there. I think one example you guys might be aware of is the whole Maggie noodle episode that happened about 2-3 years ago, where there was a case put, and it was never it hurt the company in the short term, was that Maggie noodles were not safe for consumption. They had ingredients which were harmful, and suddenly people went into mass hysteria. People started chucking out their Maggie noodles. Nobody wanted to stock it. The company had to recall like tons of those products, right? but they're also a case study in terms of how they were able to turn that around after the whole thing got cleared that there actually was a mistake, and they're quite safe to eat. Maggie just used the whole emotion about how people remember Maggie, saying that everyone has a very unique memory or a way they perceive Maggie, because it's not just a noodle, right? It's about that trip you took to the Himachal and how it warmed you up while you were there. It's about how if you were in a hostel and you never had food, you always had Maggie. So you had all these stories, and all they did was they got people to kind of retell their stories, to amplify it. They got influencers to also kind of bring in their reach and talk about what is their personal memory of Maggie. And before you knew it, Maggie was back on top as the number one instant noodle packet, which was quite a big thing, because when they were off, their competition like YY and all these guys came in and they had taken up their slot. So really interesting story to see that while internet kind of contributed to them getting a bad rep, they were also able to use the same medium to kind of pacify and tell people that there's nothing wrong and we're still the same old Maggie that you've been eating. And so, yeah, I think from that point of view, digital has, like everything else, you have to be really careful because it can really backfire quickly. So yeah, it's a good medium to reach people very quickly, but it's also bad news travels really quickly, right? I think more people now, if they want to complain to a company, say your Vodafone or Airtel line is acting up, you were like, you know what, I could call the guy and he can put me on hold, or I can just go on Twitter, tweet one thing, and I know I'll get a faster reaction, right? So it's that kind of mindset now that drives people. And so from a PR point of view, you have to be careful. But you know what? Just on that point, a bit that I'm going off topic. Sometimes if you feel as a company you've not done a bad thing, like in Maggie's case, they had to address it. But if you feel that there are just people who will always be trolling you and trying to push buttons, sometimes the best response also is no response. So it really depends on the situation.
Thank you so much for answering that. I'm pretty sure the last sentence applies to all of us in general. Do not give responses when things get heated up. But yeah, Maggie was a pretty traumatizing incident that happened. A big part of all of our lives. Pretty sad.
I know how to cook.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah. So I'll just we have time till 4:30, right?
Yeah, it can extend a little. It's not that time bound. That's fine.
I'm just gonna quickly check my schedule as well.
Yeah, that's fine. We can.
We can do 10 minutes over. Yeah, sure.
So I'll just ask about in a post-COVID scenario, like right now, obviously offline marketing is not as viable, but because like new upcoming enterprises don't have that opportunity right now. So do you think later on too, will people just prefer online marketing, or offline marketing is just something that can't be replaced?
So I think that question really depends on I think two things. One is, how are you distributed as a product? Are you a product that is available at store as well as online? That is one aspect of it. The second is, what is your ambition as a brand? Is it that you just want to sell, a few crores of business, or is it that tomorrow you want to hit the 500 crore mark, right? So depending on your availability, depending on how people are also consuming that product, and also your ambition, you need a combination of digital and offline. So just kind of borrowing examples, you would see, for instance, Mama Earth, you might have heard of it, or any of these new brands like say Wow Shampoo. When they started off, they were purely started off as digital products. They were only available, say, on their brand side, and they had to hit certain amount of targets. So it was fine doing digital, but the minute they start having partnerships with Amazon, or tomorrow they start looking at, for instance, retail, then digital alone is not going to be a medium that can help you. You need a combination of other channels. So to give you another great example, Lenskart was a digital product where you could order glasses online. But the minute they wanted to reach a larger base of consumers, and the minute they started opening up stores, then suddenly you saw a ton of TV ads, right? Because digital alone would not have been enough for it. You think about Amazon and Flipkart, whenever they have a big sale, they will do digital, but their big ads will come in the front page of the newspaper. They will have it on TV as well. And to a point, it also helps because as Indians, we're a bit skeptical about buying stuff online. That relationship has improved over the years, but in order to make it credible, it was like, okay, if I see a brand on TV or print, then it's a real brand. If I see it on digital, I'm not sure if it's a real brand. So that perception problem also was something that offline media. So offline media still has that trust, whereas internet is still associated with a bit of, can I trust it? Is there fraud? So things like that. But purely like what I mentioned before, it's your ambition of where you want to be in terms of distribution, in terms of sales. You will need that. What you might see during COVID and thereafter is if that the economy is not great and consumers aren't ready to buy in a category, you might see some curtailing of spends, and you might see brands rationalizing, saying, okay, I might want to do a bit more digital now because I'm not going to spend so much on TV or print, which might be only a short-term effect. Once the economy is back on again, you will have all media again running.
But
Thank
even
you.
with digital ordering online, we
Right.
still don't have that trust. Plus, there could be COVID transmission because the product goes through a lot of process and a lot of steps, and then it reaches to us.
Right.
So could that also be affecting? Like, would it crash the whole market, or would we still have that trust that we can buy online because we can't go outside and buy the things from the stores?
So there is a bit of fear because a lot is not known about how COVID actually transfers. So there was a lot of fear from people ordering not just food but even packages. But if you read the reports that have come out, in May and June, once the lockdown started relaxing in a lot of places, or e-commerce almost back to almost pre-COVID levels of orders. So it's that people have realized if they need stuff they will order it, and also people take the assumption that I'm still safer than stepping out and buying for it, right? So even for me as an example, while I was worried about ordering even groceries from e-com and stuff, I still felt that was a safer option than going to the store. So a lot of that habits are also being transformed. So I don't think necessarily it's going to affect in the long term. It's there will be a bump in the road. Definitely Swiggy, Zomato will see less orders now, but it will pick up again for sure.
Thank you. So, moving on to the next question. Now that we're talking,
Go ahead.
so now that we're talking about COVID-19 and how it's affecting all of us, so what do you think brands can do in this time to help get back on track? Like, how can they win in COVID recession through the help of digital media? What do you think about
Right. So I think that the important thing is, and this is something that we're all having conversations with clients, that going off air completely, while there is a need to maybe save costs and cut down while you're not operating at full capacity or consumers aren't ready to buy at the level they were buying before. So there is to say that we need to cut down and conserve money, but what typically happens is you might do that, but it might affect you long term, because if another brand comes in and starts taking your place, then when the economy does recover, do consumers even remember you, or are they going to just continue buying from who they've seen earlier? So I think the key thing is to not go off completely. What brands are doing is a certain amount of money. I will cut down and put some money on digital where I can still maintain some amount of engagement. But it's really now a mix, and I think the fact that there are so many people now connected online in India as well, and a lot of us are just connected because of work or we're trying to entertain ourselves, is definitely a new avenue for brands to say that can I connect with consumers in a way I've not connected before. So I'll give you an example. Casual gaming on mobile has become really big just simply because what else do you do in the lockdown? So brands are asking questions like, should I be there? I wouldn't have thought of it earlier. I think it's a fickle place to be in. But if people are really spending that much time there, and should I be there also to kind of engage them? So those are kind of thought starters that brands are taking away from this.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering that. Times have been really difficult, and I'm pretty sure this is really helpful. So
Yeah.
moving on.
So I think for a lot of us, we're a little, confused about the career paths that we want to take. So
Sure.
what do you think is like the scope or opportunity? What all can we pursue as a career path in digital media?
So digital media it's quite different because when I started like 12 years ago, I wasn't really aware of media as a role. I always knew about the creative part. Like I knew of the people like Prasun Joshi and Piyush Pandey and all these guys who had built Ogilvy and McCann and even the global guys like David Ogilvy. I didn't really know too much about media. My idea was it's a bunch of guys sitting somewhere with calculators and figuring out costs. But it's really changed a lot because with digital media coming in, media itself has changed. It's no longer broadcasting what you do on TV or radio. It's actually very engaging, right? You have a two-way response. You have a chance to connect with consumers, and they can also in turn connect with you, right? So the kind of opportunities that have come out are massive. There is the typical media planning roles you have, but it's really transformed into today there are roles in strategy. So how do I look at connecting different touch points? So people are coming through websites, apps. Tomorrow, if they start consuming through voice, through Alexa and Google stuff like that, is there a role that I can play in helping brands figure out that? There's another role which is all to do with data scientists, saying there's so much data being created from all of these engagements and campaigns and platforms. We make sense of it so that we can better inform clients on what they should be doing. There's also a whole renaissance in terms of how you design creative. Earlier, creative meant I'm making something very visual, which will go onto a print ad, or later on I had to figure out moving images because I'm making a TV ad. But today you're thinking about like rich media because on your phone you could do anything. Like for instance, you could hold up your phone to your face and you could try out Lakme shades of lipstick, right, which you couldn't do earlier. So the whole idea is then, do I need to know coding? Do I need to know 3D art? Do I need to know stuff like that? So really, it's become a whole lot more, right? It's no longer just media. There's strategy, there's analysis, there's content. Even working with a partner, like say tomorrow, just roughly, you might want to work with Netflix and say we want to make a show where it's funded by us as a brand. We'll showcase our product, but we'll be very subtle about it. The idea is to reach consumers because on Netflix there are no ads. So if I can't show anyone an ad, do I need to start thinking about how I integrate my product very smartly in your shows? So it's there's a whole gamut now of stuff that never existed even say 10 years ago.
True. Thank you. So I think that will help us make a choice since we're in 12th grade and very confused of what to do.
Simple thing is just go on, like if you like a product, you like say you like Uber, Swiggy, Netflix, go to the website, look at their careers because they'll have different options. So they'll say, okay, do you want something in product development? Do you want something in engineering, marketing? So you'll be like, hey, what's product development? How's it different from engineering? Just click on it, and they'll have things like, okay, you should have so much of qualifications requisite. So you can start like figuring out okay, so do I need to know this language to do programming? Do I need to do this? That's one way of kind of understanding what jobs are out there and what they're asking for. The second thing is that if you really like Netflix, for example, go to LinkedIn, search for Netflix India, see who are the guys there, and just send them an email. They may or may not reply, but there will always be a chance that somebody says, hey, okay, let me know what you're looking at. You have questions about my field. I'm happy to help. Not to say that everyone you mail will reply, but maybe out of say 100, maybe 10 reply back, right? So, but it's a great way because you can always, that's the power of the internet. You can just get advice from anyone, anywhere.
True.
Yeah.
So, moving on our way into we're all comfortable and everything. So,
Yeah.
we want to know what attracted you to the field of digital media and your experiences at WPP, if you could enlighten us.
Sure. So, like I mentioned, I didn't know much about media. It kind of was an accident because I wanted to get into creative, and there was a role for media planning on digital. So I thought, okay, let's just check it out. The worst case, I can just move into something else later. But the minute I started working and I realized like, okay, it's not just about calculating media or buying media, but now you can understand that, okay, what are people clicking on, what are the ads, what are they doing when they go to my website? And then I understood that, okay, it's a lot of behavior driven stuff that's happening. You might have an assumption of what might work. You run a campaign and then you see consumers act very differently from to what you assume. So for me, the whole reason why I stuck with digital media is I realized that was going to be the future. That TV ads are cool to make, but you're never really going to know how people feel about it. But with digital, you get very instant feedback basis how people are reacting to it. And I just thought that in the last 12 years, there's been so many changes. We went from people only being able to use their PC to now people using their phone to now people are talking about how people are using smart devices. There's so much of evolution happening, and you never have the same day at work. So that became a kind of really interesting thing to say, okay, this is a profession where I don't know where it's going to end, but at least I know it's going to be really fun in terms of what I'm doing. So that was really interesting. That's why I thought, I'll come talk to you guys, because when we were growing up, we never had anyone talk to us about media. And media also wasn't the way it is today. So there's been a lot of change. But yeah, I would say, like what I've told you guys, the best thing is if you like a product, just go to the website, check out their career graphs. You will see that what they're offering today is very different from what is there. And these roles also may not be the same roles that exist even 10 years later. It's all going to morph into something else. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out today.
We thank you for enlightening us, sir, and providing us with experiences like your experiences on the field. And I think it goes without saying that each one of us has learned something extremely important and valuable. And it is clear many of the apprehensions we ourselves had about the industry.
And we would also like to thank all of our teachers who helped us and they perfected us and they made us better. We couldn't have done this without them, especially Manisha ma'am, our business studies teacher. And of course, our team. Two of them could not be here today, Mikhail and Ryan, but they helped us with the scripts and the search work and everything. And
Awesome.
we had a lovely session and a super informative session, and it couldn't have been possible without you. So thank you so much.
Awesome. All the best, guys. Yeah, the future is exciting. So yeah, while things are kind of tough at the moment, it's nothing lasts forever. So I think once this bump is over, we'll be back to normal. But yeah, all the best, and I'm sure you guys will do really, really awesome, whatever you choose to do.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.